Next, I'd like to introduce a real political legend. This is the first candidate our executive director, Angela McMillan, ever worked for as a 15-year-old volunteer in a townhouse on Capitol Hill stuffing envelopes, I believe. This gentleman is a longtime senator from South Dakota. He is the 1972 Democratic nominee for president who will present the Hall of Fame award to Morris Dees. Please give a very warm welcome to Senator George McGovern.
Well, thank you very much, President Ayers, and all the members of the American Association of Political Consultants. I'm glad that Wayne Johnson is here today, because I learned that after arriving here today that he and I have something in common. We both grew up in Mitchell, South Dakota, the home of the world's only corn palace. There was a guy from California ridiculing me the other day about the corn palace and how corny that sounded. I said, well, I don't think it's any more so than the cow palace in San Francisco, but I'll leave that up to you. I would like to thank my longtime friend, Morris Dees, a treasured friend and advisor, and his very creative, highly intelligent, beautiful wife who is here with him today. These are the people that are responsible for me being here today, along with my Florida friend, where I now live half the year, Diane Spoden. They're all up here right together. But I've known so many people here. Roger Craver, who's going to be taken into the Hall of Fame today. I've known him forever. Ed Rollins, a person who's been in my Hall of Fame even before today for many, many years. Morris Dees, of course, whom I've mentioned. But Richard Viguerie is here. I think the first time I consulted a direct mail person, Morris, it was Richard Viguerie. And one of the reasons for that is that he was the only one, at least the only one who was known. In my visits here over the last hour, which have been very pleasant, I learned from Wayne Johnson that he is an active member of the Reformed Church. And that called to my mind the late Eric Severide. I shared a platform with him some years ago in Kansas City, one of the biggest crowds I can ever remember talking to. I assume they were all there to hear Eric Severide, but I think a few came because I was there. But I remember about the Reformed Church that day. He told about a traveler who came into a little town of Volga, South Dakota, one night. He was from North Dakota. And he said that he saw a farmer standing along the curb. It was Saturday night, and he was in the habit of going to church. So he said, do you folks have a Lutheran church here in Valga? Farmer said, yes, we've got 2 Lutheran churches. The First Lutheran Church and the Reform Lutheran Church. And the visitor said, well, what's the difference? Well, he said, at that First Lutheran Church, they say that Pharaoh's daughter found the baby Moses in the bulrushes. But at that Reformed Lutheran Church, they say that's what she says. So I give you that courtesy. I happen to be the son of a Methodist minister, and I think probably some of you know what they say about us Methodists. Methodism will not save you from sin, but it will take the fun out of it. And, I told that story to President Clinton one time, and he says, I don't believe that. I think some of those sins are still fun. I realize that these are days when the federal government and Washington, D.C. are under attack. It's almost as though this city and its accompanying federal government are public enemy number 1. I just want to say here, just in a simple statement, I don't want to take a lot of time on this, that I have believed all of my adult life that the greatest government on the face of this earth is the federal government of the United States. I don't know of a place where I'd rather live than right here in Washington, D.C., surrounded by all the alleged evil of the federal government. I'm proud of every year that I served in the House of Representatives, of every year that I served in the United States Senate. And boy, I would love to have had some time in the White House. One question puzzles me about these devout Americans. Nothing wrong with being devout. It puzzles me that some of them at least seem to hate the federal government. I wonder then why they try so hard to get here, to get into the House, to get into the Senate, to get into the White House. I think they're all pretty good places to be, but I don't understand people who think they're the enemy wanting to be a part of it. It's perhaps that they think they can improve things, that somehow George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, Eleanor, Franklin, Theodore Roosevelt, John Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, somehow they can do better than these people that created this federal government. Anyway, so much for that. Morris Dees, who I have the privilege of presenting this great honor to today, he and I first met, I believe, Morris, in Indianapolis, the Hoosier state. I had heard about him, but I didn't know much. But he had heard me speak that day at some kind of Democratic conference in Indiana. And he told me a little bit about what he was doing, direct mail for various causes. Morris has had his hand in so many things that I could go on at great length here, but let me just say one thing that I think is so important about his life and its achievements. I think he has all but ended the Ku Klux Klan in the United States. How did he do it? There's nobody in this room, I'm sure, that endorses the Ku Klux Klan, and they're just about dead. And the reason is that Morris and the highly able legal counsel that he has working with him at the Southern Poverty Law Center has nailed the Ku Klux Klan across this country every time they violated a civil rights law or a civil rights provision in the Constitution. And they've taken them to the cleaners, millions of dollars, to keep them going to prison. And they've run them out. They've been, in effect, exhausted their monetary base. And so many of these Klan units that were once flourishing and terrifying people, they don't terrify people anymore. And he is a key person in putting an end to this blot on an otherwise wonderful country.